So first, to start us off today, I want to go over three pairs. We're going to look at Euro USD, USD CHF, and GBP USD. This morning, all three pairs presented A1 entries. When that happens, because it will happen, you have to be able to use the checklist that we teach in our courses at ASFX. You have to be able to use that checklist to work through which of those three pairs you should be trading instead of trying to trade all three. I have some of the newer guys in ASFX, they think that they should take every signal that they see. And what we've found, not only through experience of live trading year after year, but also through backtesting, is that it actually is more profitable to be picky. And instead of trying to trade every signal that presents for your system, it makes sense to try to find the highest probability trade that's presenting and to put your money there. That point is reinforced even further when you're looking at correlated currency pairs. So when we're looking at Euro USD and GBP USD, because both of those are USD quote pairs, normally they will move in the same direction. Not pip for pip, candle for candle, but they will lean in the same direction. Whereas USD CHF, being a USD base pair, will actually move the opposite direction. That will go higher when those USD quote pairs are coming lower and vice versa. So today I'm going to show you GBP USD, which was the best signal of the three. Let's just be clear with that. We'll go through the checklist and I'll explain how that is, but that is the best signal of the day. Then we'll talk about USD CHF and Euro USD and why I kind of steered everybody away from that in the chat this morning. Now, we've got a lot of people in these trades this morning. Jerome, James, Dennis, TJ, a lot of people making money this morning. Kareem, everybody's doing well. So it's not that these entries are hard to identify. Once you know what you're looking for, what we teach in the course, you'll be able to identify these for yourself. So first, we're going to look at GBP USD and we're going to work through the checklist as we always do. You can see market sentiment is bearish very nicely today, not swapping zones, not falling too low. The yellow market sentiment line looks really great for shorts today. On top of that, EMAs are very bearish. 800 EMA is on top. We had the 200 stay above the 50 yesterday, and overnight, you can see that 250 EMA really start to fan out, which is a good sign that trend is holding well, that bearish trend is holding well. And on top of that, price is making lower lows and lower highs. So when I was waking up this morning at about 5 o'clock, we were watching this pull back to the 21 EMA right here. Also watching it pull back to the Asia low, which if you mark it right here, you can see this two candle formation comes right off that Asia low. So you have Asia low as support, it's broken, now retested, confirmed as resistance. Support becomes resistance. Those horizontal levels are super important for us. Now, the knocks against this trade are important to talk about as well. First, you'll see that it does touch oversold here today. It's not super oversold, and that does not mean that it's going to rise, but that is something that we have to take into account when we ask ourselves what could be better. It could not be oversold, that's for sure. The second knock, a little bit smaller of an issue, is that the red trend line here is rising at the time of the entry. Now, the RSI position was proper at the candle close, which is what makes this engulfing formation an A1 entry. We're not just trading engulfing formations here. That's what you're going to see on these three positions. It's not just about the candle formation. Remember that. It's about the TDI value. And on the candle close at 6:30, the RSI was proper, the candle was proper coming off the 21 EMA. Everything looked good for this to continue to the downside. You have your shift overnight here at the end of the Asian session, the start of the London session, and that sets that first leg down. I really like that this is the first pullback to the 21 EMA after the downshift, because normally you would count this as level 1, and this would be level 2. Level 3, level 4, those aren't always guaranteed, that continuation of trend. But once you get that short-term shift and you're looking to trade the first pullback to the 21 after the shift, this is important, don't tune me out now. Once you get that first pullback and it's coming off a significant level, I think that can help you reinforce the trade. There was no 1-minute bearish divergence here. There is no D1 entry. This is strictly A1. Now, what James did, I have to give him props. If we sync this up to the 1-minute chart, James, instead of entering here where the 15-minute candle closed, he waited for the 1-minute to come back to the 50 EMA, just like we do for the D1 entry, and that's where he took his position. And now, as long as this market sentiment line stays underneath the 50 value, as long as it stays in the sell zone, I think you will see this continue to the downside. So this was the best idea of the day. The knocks on this trade on the 15-minute are not that bad. Oversold and a rising trend line are not that bad. In my opinion, this is a B setup. It even could be considered an A setup, but When I have any knocks, it automatically goes to a B. But this isn't a C setup. There's no divergence in your way. There's no divergence in the bottom. There's no horizontal level from yesterday's low. We're under yesterday's low, right? And Friday's low. We're well under that price. So that's also a significant level we're trading underneath. So there was nothing in the way of this moving lower today. And that's why I think this is the best setup that we've seen so far. So good job to everybody who's trading GBP USD. Well done. Now, USD CHF finally pushing a little higher here, about 1.5 R at most so far, maybe a little bit more, 1.6, about 10 pips of rise with a 6 pip stop. I didn't like this trade specifically because of this zone from yesterday's high. Trading into this zone after we saw rejection to it last night tells me that we could easily find more rejection here and have it come lower. If we have horizontal levels in our way of getting good risk reward, which to me is at least 2R, if we have a horizontal level in our way of getting that 2-to-1, then I'm normally going to look for a better trade, because what can happen is this can pin the zone and come lower. And you'll say to yourself, why did I try to forecast the break of that zone rather than wait for it to break, retest, and then I trade it as support? Like on GBP USD, what did it do with the Asia low? What did it do with yesterday's low? It broke it and retested it right here. If you mark yesterday's low with the body low right here, what does it do? It breaks it in the Asian session, retests it, and holds underneath it, confirming it as resistance now, even though it was support here overnight. So horizontal levels are very important to me. I would not overlook them. However, because this is a USD correlated pair, when GU is going down, UCHF is going to move up. And if you follow me on the streams every day, yesterday you saw that we had a C setup. This was the trade of the day yesterday. In the Asian range, this moved up to touch its ADR, and that's what set that zone here that we were looking to trade into this morning. So yesterday's long trade ended up being a winner, comes back down, you end up making money on that. And then again today, you have another long position, a little bit better of a setup in my opinion. You're out of the Asian range. It's already in an upshift. Everything looked really good here. The only thing that I didn't like about it was that zone. So the fact that the zone was in the way, I said GU is a better setup. And on top of that, CHF pairs are just never my favorite. But this is working well, holding the 8 EMA candle by candle. And notice the next bar is bullish, which is exactly what you would want after a 2-candle formation. If that came down and was bearish, that would have been a bad sign. Same thing for GBP USD. The next bar is small, but it stayed bearish, which is exactly what you'd want to see because the move is down. And now this is pushing a little bit more. I would expect this to go 2R, but we'll see. It could be building some bullish divergence on the bottom too. So we'll see. Not going to forecast, just going to react. And now Euro USD finally shoving lower, but this was the pair that I liked the least. So you get the 2-candle formation off the 21. TDI value is good, but the issue here is not only that you're in the zone from yesterday's low, but here you have bullish divergence present, as you can see from my knocks. Now we're underneath this key support level that we were using since last week. You can see we used it as support to come lower last night. So it makes sense to be short biased. Market sentiment is in the sell zone all day, so it feeds that short bias. And GU looks just like this with EU. They both are USD quote pairs, so it makes sense. And here, the next bar is bearish, which is a good sign. But with this candle formation in that zone from yesterday's low, and with the divergence present, staying in your way of getting 2R, because it's only moved 1.5 now, even though it's moved through it, with the divergence there, you have to favor GU because there was no zone and there was no divergence. If that's not clear to you, please let me know. The fact that EU is moving lower now should not make you feel FOMO, should not make you feel that you missed anything, because the better trade, the money should have been in GBP USD. As you can see, no divergence, no horizontal zones in your way. Does that make sense to everybody? Hit the thumbs up or give me a yes in the chat if that makes sense to everybody. And now you can see USD CHF is continuing, now about 2R. So it's a great day for everybody. People are making money buying UCHF and people are making money selling GBP USD. But where I would say you do not want your money is Euro USD. Avoid trading into the divergence line. Just because this is moving lower today, please, please, please take a picture of this. I will show you hundreds of markups that have it bouncing off this divergence line and coming higher. So be mindful of the divergence and be able to turn your focus to other pairs. If EU looks like it could fall, you should check GBP USD to see if it's a potentially better setup. And today it was. Same thing the other way around. If GU is looking like it wants to fall, but there's something wrong with it, go check the other USD quote pairs. Check the other GBP pairs. Use correlations to find the most probable move behind a trending currency. Right now, the trend is clearly to see the dollar move higher as Euro USD moves lower. Euro USD is the most traded currency pair. So I think if Euro USD moves lower, it typically will pull GBP USD lower with it because it's showing you the trend that the US dollar is in. Dennis said exactly my point of view. Avoiding GU because it was oversold as it pushes lower could create that bullish divergence. Then comparing to UCHF, that's not the case. It has spaced overbought and there was only resistance. I just agree with Dennis. I agree with him in his analysis of overbought or oversold on GU, but I disagree with him ignoring this zone. Because if this had pinned the zone and come lower and stopped him out, he would go forward and he would say, all right, I'm not going to ignore zones anymore. He's trying to call this an A setup, and I would tell you that he's wrong in that. He can do whatever he wants. You can do whatever you want, guys. I'm telling you, I have, again, hundreds of markups. Dennis might be the only one that has a lot of back testing similar to me. But I would say even if he looks at his testing, I probably have more markups than him, and I can show you hundreds of trades that hit this zone and come down off of it because you're trading into the zone without good risk reward. Hundreds of examples where it does not break and surge like this is doing. Don't let this being a winner tell you, oh, I don't need to pay attention to horizontal zones. I don't need to pay attention to yesterday's high, because you do. Because otherwise you'll take losses. It'll come up a little bit and come down and stop you out. And you'll be like, oh, what zone did it hit? Why is it coming down? I don't understand. So I think it's very important, Dennis and everybody in this trade today, do not let a win make you think, oh, I don't need to pay attention to horizontal zones. I don't need that. Yes, you do. Because if you ignore it and you take a loss, you're going to wonder, why did you lose? You know? And it's very clear why that is. I hope that makes sense. I hope Dennis doesn't take that too personally. I just think he's a little biased in his trade because it's a winning trade when very clearly GU had nothing in its way. The oversold is not an issue. The rising trend line is not that much of an issue. This was the better trade to take. Candle by candle, this has been fallen. No zone in its way. This is the better trade to be in. Everybody says it makes sense. Yep, you got it, Dennis. Checking in the coaches chat right now. Nice. Okay, good. And EU's coming down there on that candle close as well. So those were the three pairs that we were most focused on this morning in the group chat, the three pairs that we were following the most, the ones that we were paying the most attention to. And you can see how when you do that, you lock in, you can stay focused and find a really great entry. GBP CHF has not done anything for us today. GBP JPY has been holding the 8 EMA. Euro JPY is on my watch list today because the 15-minute looks very bearish, and I'm watching this swing position here on the 1 hour to see this come lower. So I think you're going to see Euro JPY continue down, which kind of aligns with Euro USD coming down. So I think you might want to watch this with me in the next couple of hours, in the next couple of days. This candle formation coming off the 21, closed at 5 a.m. If you had to trade before you go to work, boom, you could have taken your entry at 5 a.m., 20 pips stop, and you'd be up about 10 pips right now. On EuroCAD, I'm watching this. If you remember from yesterday's stream, we were watching this bounce off that zone that's been support for weeks. It bounced up to the 800, held the 800 overnight, and then made another move higher, setting a high a day here past yesterday's high as this thing looks to continue the bullish trend. However, on the 15-minute today, it's a swapping market sentiment line. These EMAs need to get into a cleaner trend before we look to trade it, but it looks like it's holding that original bias that we saw yesterday, where you could have been looking for shorts yesterday because of the market sentiment, but here as it's rising, knowing that we were at a significant zone, it makes more sense to be bullish, and that was the right direction yesterday. Euro JPY was on my list today because of market sentiment being bullish. But again, if Euro JPY is looking bullish, I'm going to go to GBP USD always and look for trades there because I'd rather trade GBP USD than Euro GBP. Just personally, based on my testing, that's where it presents better. And then I want to show you another one here, CAD JPY. This is a D1 setup off the 50 EMA. Very bearish overnight. It moved down yesterday. Market sentiment was very bearish yesterday. So then today, when you see that yellow market sentiment line sitting in the sell zone, not oversold, it's got some bullish divergence, but the bullish divergence isn't even oversold. So it's not super serious, but it is in your way. You're able to still ride that trend off the significant 50 EMA. Tries to get above it. It cannot. It's making lower highs overnight, and now you see it move down. And on the 1 minute, you actually get a really clean 1 minute structure, similar to what we talked about at last weekend's workshop. If you're an ASFX member and you have not watched the workshop from last weekend, I highly recommend that you go look at it. You'll see the divergence sets this up. It has multiple 50 EMA breaks, pulls the market sentiment into the sell zone, and then from the entry, the L50 just holds the sell zone all morning. It's still in the sell zone now. So very, very bearish here, easy to identify with that structure. And you can even wait because if you took the first break on the 1 minute up here, as you can see where I have it marked, you'd be going short while the 15-minute is in an upshift, which we know we don't want to do. But if you wait, you can get in as it shifts down using a tighter stop loss and using price structure on the 1 minute. So that's everything that's been on the watch list this morning, everything that we were watching from yesterday into today. Again, I just want to congratulate everybody that made money with us this morning, whether you're in GBP USD or you're in USD CHF. I don't think either of them are bad setups. The only beef that I have with it is that USD CHF now up over 2.4R, about 15 pips with a 7 pip stop, 6 pip stop. This one had that zone in its way again, where GBP USD did not. So both of these trades moving, this one's almost about 2R, USD CHF over 2R. Both of them are good rips today. And even though Euro USD is still moving lower, don't think you're missing something because, again, you have a horizontal level in your way. You did not break that yet. And more importantly than anything, this had divergence in the way, going against the trade you were looking to take. So find the better signal. And today it gave it to you very clearly on GBP USD. Same time, same signal. It just had less knocks on it. It's a super easy trade to take when that one has less knocks. And then it's just about trusting your process, trusting the system, as a lot of people were saying in the chat today. Trust the process, trust the system, be unemotional. If all three are presenting an entry, USD CHF, Euro USD, and GBP USD, clearly the dollar is moving. The dollar is the correlation between all of them. So clearly it's doing something. So I think it's just about saying, okay, this is what's moving. Now let's go through the checklist and find the best entry. I hope that makes sense to everybody. If it doesn't, put questions in the chat. Let's go into this in detail if you need anything. But that should clear the air on how to work through the checklist and why GU and UCHF were the two better setups this morning of the three.